I just got home from the airport getting back from my trip to Florida, and I'm literally going to turn right around and go to the chiropractor. Thankfully, I was able to get an appointment this afternoon because last night ended up being kind of a rough night. In the evening yesterday, like while I was packing up and getting ready for bed, I just like all of a sudden got super triggered, felt super inflamed. My stomach hurt. I had really bad heartburn. All my joints felt really like they were on fire. I was really uncomfortable. Did not get a lot of sleep last night with all of that happening, and was just kind of trying to get through today, get through the travel, knowing I could get home and head to the chiro. Hopefully we'll get some relief from that, and 99% of the time that does the trick. And I can get a better night's sleep tonight and be feeling better by tomorrow. Good morning, it's Tuesday morning. Sorry if there's noise in the background, the dryer is going and it's being particularly loud this morning. But anyway, I got home yesterday afternoon. I think like I mentioned, I turned around, went right to the chiropractor, and that helped so much. Thankfully, that really does tend to work for me and give me a lot of relief when I have pain and tension, so that was great. And I feel so much better today, but not just from the chiropractor, although that was a big part, but also from getting a good night's sleep. Sunday night before I left Florida, when I really was kind of flared up and like everything hurt and like I had really bad heartburn and just felt inflamed, I definitely did not get a good night's sleep. But luckily at this point, I've really dialed in my sleep routine and I really know what is going to help me get back on track if I don't have a good night, because it is going to happen from time to time, sometimes out of my control in certain instances. But I do feel like I really know what is going to give me at least the best shot of getting a really good night's sleep. And if I kind of follow that routine, even if I sometimes don't have a great night's sleep or maybe even a couple of nights, that I'm going to get back on track pretty quickly. And sleep is really where the magical recovery happens. So after having that good chiropractic adjustment yesterday, I still was feeling like my body needed some good recovery, and I knew that getting a good night's sleep was going to make all the difference going forward. So last night, even though I was really tired, I still got in the sauna and I took a cold shower afterwards, and that really set me up to kind of get back into my usual routine, get that really good night's sleep, and wake up feeling a lot better. You can see from my Aura Ring data from Sunday night just like how poor my sleep was and kind of my overall recovery. Not surprising given how uncomfortable I was that I wasn't sleeping well or that my body was not doing great after that. Plus add on a full day of travel. I knew that was also going to add additional stress. I was hopeful that the chiropractic appointment would help a lot, and it did. But I also knew that I wanted to make sure I really made a point to get back to my usual sleep routine and sleep schedule, because I feel like it can be really easy, especially after travel, when you're kind of just discombobulated, disorganized, and I'll let that throw you off, and then you get into this sort of spiral of like your body's a little off, your sleep gets a little off, and then it starts to perpetuate. So anyway, all of that to say, there was a time I really wasn't as dialed in on my sleep. Like I knew sleep was important, but I didn't really, I think, realize how important it was in terms of helping my body not just recover on a day-to-day basis, but really for this like healing process overall. That sleep was really the foundation of where my body is able to do that healing, and that the more I can keep that consistent and keep my sleep really good, the more that's going to help me make progress in the long term. And I think before I always felt like, well, I'm just like, I'm so tired all the time. It's easy to fall asleep, therefore I'm probably sleeping fine. I just didn't like pay that much attention to the quality and quantity of my sleep or how critical that was going to be. And once I figured out what worked really well for me to kind of get me that consistent good night's sleep and consistent quality sleep, it's made a huge difference in my physical health, mental health, emotional health, all the things. So I thought I would share this week a little bit of my bedtime routine, what I found really helps to get good, consistent quality sleep. I've also over the years done a lot of research on my own into sleep and the importance of sleep. I actually did a whole certification with the company where I did my nutrition certification to be a sleep and recovery specialist as well. So sleep is very important to me. It's very high on my priority list all the time. And I know a lot of people struggle with sleep in some way. So hopefully sharing some of the things that I've learned and some of the things that I found really helpful in my own life might be helpful to anybody else, whether you struggle with something like chronic fatigue or just want to improve your sleep a little bit and therefore your overall health and well-being. So we'll get into that a little bit later. This morning, I've just been trying to get reorganized post-travel. I do try to leave the day, or at least the morning after I get back from traveling, pretty open so that I don't have to like rush into doing a whole bunch of things. And I can kind of take that time to catch up a little bit, get unpacked, get a little more settled. I've got a few more things I got to get checked off my to-do list this morning. And then later today, we'll talk a little bit more about sleep, pre-bed routine, wind down routine, all that good stuff that can help create a good night's sleep and kind of build the foundation of overall health and wellness. Okay, I know I said I'm going to talk about like sleep routine and pre-bed wind down rituals that really create the environment for a good night's sleep, but in reality, good sleep for me at least is the accumulation of a lot of things that I do throughout my entire day that lead up to the more specific like pre-bed wind down routine. And one of those things that starts during the day is getting some kind of movement. For me, that's definitely like a non-negotiable. Like I'm going to do some kind of movement throughout my day, usually first thing in the morning, just because that's when I feel like it's easiest for me to do it. It kind of gives me the best energy boost at the beginning of my day. It sort of starts off my day on a good note, and I just generally feel like I feel better throughout my day if I get my movement in early, but also kind of getting movement in throughout my day whenever possible, so I'm not having like huge periods of inactivity, but some kind of dedicated movement within my day, whether that's first thing in the morning or throughout the day. Movement is definitely going to be a big factor in helping your body get a good night's sleep at night. So let's go get a workout in. The fastest and easiest way to set your circadian rhythm, which will help you get a good night's sleep at night and also be more energized and awake in the morning, is to get sunlight in your eyes, especially early in the day. All of the cells in your body have receptors that react to sunlight, and that helps set into motion a cascade of effects, hormonal responses, etc., that basically make your whole body work, but everything from waking up in the morning, digestion, metabolism, and then getting sleepy at night and getting a good night's sleep. So sunlight in your eyes, especially early in the morning, can be super, super impactful, especially if you struggle with sleep or struggle to fall asleep, stay asleep. This is why I'm always trying to get morning sunlight anytime I can, however I can. I know it's going to help set my circadian rhythm and just kind of keep everything on track. Or if for some reason I'm a little bit off, if my sleep's been a little bit off, if I've been traveling or whatever, it's going to be the easiest and fastest way to get back on track. So use sunlight to your advantage. It's free, it's easy, it's fast, and it's incredibly effective. Okay, I know it's kind of dark in here, but that is on purpose because one of the first things I do as part of my evening wind down routine for good sleep is to dim the lights at night. Obviously, it's winter right now. It still gets dark out quite early, but generally, even like in the summer when it's staying light out really late, I'm trying to keep the lights inside dim starting a couple of hours, like 2 to 3 hours before I'm planning to go to bed. That means turning down overhead lights. I like to light candles, or you can use like lamps and sort of less intense lights instead of having like really bright overhead lights on. Just like I was talking about sunlight and getting bright light in your eyes in the morning being a really important way to set your circadian rhythm. Being exposed to bright light at night or in the evening hours before bed can also be more stimulating and basically signal to your cells that you are wanting to be awake and alert rather than getting ready for bed. It can essentially disrupt your circadian rhythm and kind of send the wrong signal to all of your cells, which are signaling to your whole body to have these physiological reactions that are trying to set you up for a good night's sleep. But instead, if you're putting really bright light into your eyes, you're messing with that natural rhythm, and that can pose problems for your sleep. This is why you probably hear a lot about like avoiding screens before bed, because that's a lot of blue light. It's a lot of bright light into your eyes. Blue light can disrupt your melatonin production, which is going to help you fall asleep at night. So there's a lot of reasons why avoiding bright light at night can help improve your quality of sleep. And again, that might mean dimming lights if you have lights that are on dimmers, or using like lamps or candlelight instead of bright overhead light, being mindful of screen use, or like I have a setting on my computer and my phone that turns down the brightness and the blue light on my screens at like 6:30 at night, and it does it automatically. So if I am picking up my phone or if I'm looking at my computer after that time, I'm getting exposed to a lot less of that blue light and bright light than I would be otherwise. I also do have blue light blocking glasses that I'll try to use, like especially if I'm gonna be like on a Zoom meeting or something later at night when I know I'm gonna kind of have to be close to the screen or looking directly at it closer to my bedtime. I'll try to wear the blue light blocking glasses. But yeah, my wind down routine in the evening, first thing I do is dim the lights and really try to be mindful of how much bright light I'm getting in the couple of hours before I go to bed. Speaking of keeping the lights dim, I actually have this blue light free lamp in my bedroom that I use at night. I know it's a little creepy looking, but it's actually kind of nice, and I do find that I fall asleep faster, and it's just like a lot more soothing and way less overstimulating at night to use this red light. But even if you don't want to maybe go to the extreme of having this sort of creepy looking red light, just finding something that's a lot less bright, especially to have beside your bed where you really don't want it to be potentially disrupting your sleep. It's the next morning, it's a little after 9 o'clock. I've done my workout, I got my sunlight exposure, I've had some breakfast. And yesterday I was talking about how light exposure is so important for regulating your circadian rhythm and helping you get a good night's sleep. And another thing that can affect your circadian rhythm really strongly is food and when you are eating. And I don't mean in the sense of like you have to be on a rigid schedule or like you are quote unquote supposed to eat at certain times, but that eating a fairly regular meal schedule or eating at around the same time each day is another really effective way to help your body basically know when you want to be awake and when you want to be getting ready for bed and going to sleep. Because every time we eat, we're essentially like waking up our body and telling it it's time to digest, and that requires energy. So if you're like eating right before you go to bed or you're eating really late at night, that can also kind of signal to your body, signal to your cells that you're trying to be awake, and therefore can disrupt sleep. So another thing that I've really implemented over the last several years as I've dialed in my sleep and my sleep routine is to have pretty regular meal times as much as possible. And that basically means like within an hour, maybe like 30 to 60 minute window, having meal times being pretty regular is going to be super, super helpful and essentially put your body clock on a schedule so that you're waking up in the morning and falling asleep at night. And this is actually another way that you can really help with things like jet lag, or if you're changing time zones, both light and food, like eating at a different time or getting your light exposure at the right times can help shift your body clock forward or back depending on what kind of adjustment you're trying to make. So that's how powerful these tools are, like using sunlight, using food, also exercise is another thing. All of these things are signaling to the very basically deepest level of your body, your cells, what time it is essentially, or what part of the day it is, whether you're wanting to be awake or whether you're trying to get closer to going to sleep. So yeah, I try to keep a pretty good schedule with my meal times, keep it pretty irregular, and I do feel like that really helps my body stay on a good schedule and helps me to begin feeling sleepy at the right time so that I'm going to bed around the same time, waking up around the same time each day. I'm just really keeping that 24-hour body clock on a good cycle. All right, it's a little before 6 p.m. I have my lights dimmed. I am getting ready to have dinner. And this is another thing kind of related to what I was talking about before in terms of food timing and how that can impact your circadian rhythm. Eating dinner at least a few hours before you go to bed so that your body has a bit of time to digest before you're trying to like eat a big meal and then go right to sleep. That can also help you get a better night's sleep. As I mentioned before, when you eat, you're essentially telling your body to be awake, to be ready to digest. So if you end up eating really late at night or really close to bedtime, that can disrupt your sleep. I usually try to finish eating 2 to 3 hours before I'm going to bed or before I'm planning to like be trying to go to sleep. And I do feel like that has also really helped me develop a good sleep routine and be able to fall asleep and stay asleep at night. Again, there's a time when this was really not on my radar and I was not paying attention to the things that affected my sleep quality. And I was often eating dinner later at night or like pretty much eating dinner and going right to bed. And I really have noticed a difference when I do make a point to eat dinner early enough or give myself that 2 to 3 hours before bedtime or between finishing eating and getting ready for bed. Again, it's not a super specific rule or like a should of like you have to finish eating by this certain time. But if you're in the habit of eating late at night or eating really close to your bedtime and you find that your sleep is a little bit disrupted, that could be a factor and something to try. Just giving yourself a little bit more time between your last meal and the time that you're trying to get in bed and go to sleep. Okay, so the next step in my pre-bed wind down routine after dimming the lights in the evening and making sure that I've finished eating at least a few hours before I'm going to be going to bed, I like to do some kind of heat exposure. So recently that's been using my sauna, or when I'm at home, using the sauna every night. Before I had a sauna, I used to do Epsom salt baths, or if I'm traveling or just kind of don't feel like taking the time to do a sauna or a bath, even just taking a warm shower is another really effective way to help prepare your body to get ready for sleep. And the reason this works is because your body temperature actually has to drop in order for you to fall asleep. And by doing some kind of heat exposure, like I said, whether that's just a warm bath or shower or something like a sauna, raising your internal temperature then signals to your body to cool you down. So your body temperature drops. You're basically helping that natural cycle of your body temperature dropping before bed by first increasing your internal body temperature. Again, you're essentially just kind of supporting what your body would already be doing physiologically as it's preparing to go to sleep at night. Doing some kind of heat exposure close to the time that you want to be actually getting in bed and starting to get sleepy is another really helpful strategy. And I really have found the sauna to be incredibly helpful with this. By the time I'm done with a sauna and then doing a quick like cool water rinse off afterwards, I'm basically falling asleep. Like I'm so ready to get in bed and go to sleep. But even if I'm traveling, like if I just take a warm shower and then start getting ready for bed after that, that also works really well. I think also just because it has become a routine that it's like my body has gotten used to, like these are the steps that lead up to bedtime. So not only am I helping to support the actual like physiological processes that are happening before bed, but I think also just like mentally and physically it's become kind of a set routine of like I do these couple of things before bed and then I'm falling asleep or getting sleepy, and it's kind of just become a habit so that when I do these steps, everything just sort of falls into place and I'm ready for bed and getting sleepy at the time that I want to be. So heat exposure before bed is the next step in the wind down routine and another strategy that can be really helpful. After I finish my heat exposure, whether that's the sauna, a warm bath, or hot shower, whatever I'm doing for that particular night, the next thing I do right before I get into bed is a few minutes of yoga or stretching. This is actually something I started doing during the pandemic when I couldn't go to yoga classes. So I literally just put my yoga mat right next to my bed and would do 5 or 10 minutes of stretching right before I got into bed at night. And it just became a habit that really stuck. It really just made me feel better physically and mentally. It was a nice way to really decompress before I got into bed. So I'll do anywhere from like 5 to 10, maybe even 20 minutes of stretching, and we'll finish with a little bit of legs up the wall or supported bridge pose as just another way to really relax. From there, I'll get into bed and read until I am literally so sleepy that I can't keep my eyes open anymore. And I really feel like this last part of my pre-bed routine, doing some stretching and then getting in bed and reading, is ultimately what really sets me up for a good night's sleep. It's something I can do anywhere, and it always puts both my physical body and my mind in a good place to be getting sleepy and falling asleep when I want to be. So that is the end of my pre-bed routine. All right, little intermission from the sleep routine because I'm going to get a haircut, which I obviously really need. My hair has gotten very long. I think it's been like maybe 4 months since I got my haircut. But anyway, very excited to get a haircut this morning. It has been snowing though all morning. So this is what it looks like outside right now. And definitely gonna need a little extra time to drive over to my appointment. But when I get back, I also have a bunch of workout shoes that I ordered to try on. I realized that my workout shoes are pretty old and probably need to be replaced at this point. There is one particular brand that I've really liked for the last several years for my strength training workouts, and they have a bunch of new styles that they've come out with. So just going to give those a try, see which ones I like, and thought I would just share my favorite shoes for workouts. We'll do that when I get back. It's a few hours later, got home from my haircut, recharged the camera battery, and now I'm ready to try on the new workout shoes that I ordered. I got a bunch of different pairs and a couple different styles and sizes to try, but they're all from Vivo Barefoot, which is a brand of workout shoes that I've been wearing for several years now. So these are the ones that I currently have, and as you can tell by the name, Vivo Barefoot, they are barefoot style shoes. I now pretty much exclusively wear barefoot style shoes, meaning they have a wider toe box and they're generally pretty neutral. They're more flat instead of having a ton of cushioning, with the idea being that you're closer to being barefoot, your foot more connected to the ground, rather than having a ton of cushioning. And especially like in running shoes, you'll have a lot of heel cushioning and essentially you're being propelled forward from your heel to your toe, which can be helpful when you're actually running and you're having a lot of impact on your heel. But when you're trying to do strength training and you're trying to really like connect with the ground, connect from your foot up through your leg and use your muscles properly, have good stability and balance, at least in my opinion, it's a lot better to go with more of a barefoot style shoe or anything that keeps you closer to the ground, keeps you a little more neutral. And Vivo Barefoot is the best one that I have found, at least for me, that fits those guidelines. So these shoes are like at least a year old, I think. This one's about to get a hole in it and they're a little bit worn down. I'm also a little bit in between sizes, so I'm not entirely sure. I actually don't even remember what I ordered at this point, but I think I have a few different styles, both in 2 different sizes, to figure out which ones I'm gonna like the best. The other thing I like about Vivo Barefoot is that they have a pretty easy return policy. So like when I know that I'm a little bit in between sizes or not sure which style I wanna go with, I can just order a bunch of them and then pick out the one that I like from there. So let's see what we've got. This one is pretty similar to the ones that I currently have, just like a little bit of a different material. Definitely feels like the right size. This is actually the smaller of the sizes that I ordered, so I'm guessing the larger size is maybe gonna be too big. These ones feel okay. If anything, they feel a little bit big, but I could probably tighten them and put these in the maybe category. Okay, these I think are actually the same ones that I have now, except just in like a slightly newer version. And I have a feeling these are gonna be too big because this is the one that I ordered in a larger size. I think they actually didn't have the size that I have now, which is why I decided to just try a size up. But I'm pretty sure these are gonna be big. Yeah, these are way too big. These also are very similar to the ones that I have. I'm not really sure what the difference is, honestly, but it's a little bit of different style. I like these a little better than the other ones. They're a little more flexible. They do feel a little big, but the ones that I have currently actually feel like they might be a little bit small. So I don't know. These are the winners so far. I like these too, but I think they're too big. The last one was definitely a different style. Not sure how I feel about that. These feel a little bit wider too. Not my favorite. I think these ones were my favorite. but I honestly might have to order a size down. So I might have to do one other order to compare with a slightly smaller size. That might also give me more options because I do think some of the ones that I ordered were sold out in certain sizes. So in any case, I guess I'm not deciding today which ones I'm gonna keep. But really like Vivo Barefoot, really comfortable, kind of feels like you're wearing like a sock instead of a shoe. Like it has that really flexible feel. It's like really stretchy material, so I never feel like my foot is being constricted, which I really like, especially when I'm doing strength training. The last thing I want is to feel like claustrophobic in my shoes. Like I want to be able to really use my foot. So really like these shoes for that purpose. The other thing I really like about Vivo Barefoot is that they use sustainable materials, recycled materials. They're certified B Corporation, so they meet certain like environmental and social impact standards, which I also appreciate. So that's why I keep returning to these whenever I need new workout shoes. Okay, so I've shared some of the things that I do specifically as part of my own wind down routine, getting ready for bed, the things that really help me get a good night's sleep. And obviously some of these are very specific to me and which is like what works personally for me and my life, and not saying that like everybody has to follow this specific routine by any means. But I do think the principles behind a lot of these things that I'm doing, not only is there scientific evidence to back it up, but there's basically physiological reasons why these things work for the human body and help you to get a better night's sleep. For example, we know that bright lights at night can disrupt your circadian rhythm, can disrupt melatonin production, and that dimming the lights a couple of hours before bed or as the sun is going down can really help keep your body on the right track to go to sleep. I think it's fairly obvious that doing more relaxing activities and less things that are super stimulating right before bed is also going to help you wind down instead of kind of wind you up. Again, for me personally, that looks like doing some yoga and stretching, deep breathing, getting in bed and reading versus doing something before bed like watching TV or maybe looking at your phone, which is not to say that like you can't do those things. Maybe that's what actually works well for you if you're watching something that's more relaxing or you don't find that that interrupts your sleep or messes with how you're able to fall asleep and stay asleep at night. But I do think that kind of understanding like the physiology behind some of these strategies can help each individual person create like a wind down pre-bed routine that works really well for you. So maybe that's just like finding what are some things that feel like are relaxing and help you get into that calm, sleepy headspace before bed. Noticing what kinds of things maybe are a little more overstimulating for you. Maybe thinking about, like I was talking about, meal timing or like eating a few hours before bed are a few other things that I really try to keep in mind around sleep or that I've really put into place over the years that have stayed as like very solid parts of my either my daily routine or specifically my pre-bed routine that I also wanted to talk about. The most important one is having a consistent sleep schedule, and this kind of goes back to that bigger picture idea of regulating your circadian rhythm, whether that's through light exposure in the morning, movement, food timing, but also going to bed around the same time and waking up around the same time each morning and each night. Another way of really signaling to your body, this is when I want to be going to sleep and this is when I want to be waking up. And it's not meant to be like a super strict rule of like you have to be in bed exactly this time every night and waking up at the same time every day. And I know that that's not always going to be realistic for everybody depending on your own particular life or situation, but the more you can keep a fairly consistent sleep and wake schedule, more likely it is that your sleep is going to be good quality and good quantity. There's actually a term for what happens when we go to sleep later, like let's say on the weekends. And when we do that, like if we go to bed a lot later on say like Friday and Saturday nights and sleep in much later, we actually have social jet lag, which is this idea that because of our social calendar, we're literally creating a jet lag situation in our bodies. That's how much even just going to bed like a couple of hours later and waking up a couple of hours later on the weekends can throw off your whole circadian rhythm, and then you're trying to kind of catch up going into Monday or maybe going into your work week or whatever, and now you've kind of created this vicious cycle of your body has no idea what time you're wanting to be asleep and what time you're wanting to wake up, and you're sort of ping-ponging back and forth. So no wonder you feel like you're struggling with sleep or struggling to fall asleep at the right time or wake up at the right time. And all of these other practices that I've talked about, like getting light at the right times or avoiding bright light at the right time, eating on a fairly consistent schedule, getting some movement during the day, those are all things that are also going to impact your circadian rhythm that will then help you to be falling asleep at the same time each night or when you want to be going to bed. I guess basically what I'm saying is your body, your cells want to be kind of on a schedule, and the more that you can maintain some semblance of a fairly regular schedule, the easier you will find it to get the kind of sleep that you want to be getting on a daily basis. Another maybe more obvious one is to like avoid caffeine later in the day. I try to cut off any kind of caffeine around 12 or 1 o'clock. The general rule is to try to avoid caffeine at least 8 hours before you're going to bed, given that caffeine is going to stay in your system at some level for quite a while. If you're having caffeine any closer to bedtime, it really will have an impact at least on your quality of sleep. So even if, let's say, you're one of those people that's like able to have coffee late in the day and still fall asleep, the actual quality of that sleep is going to be different than if you didn't have that caffeine. Same thing goes for alcohol. I really don't drink alcohol, so it's not something that I think about too much. But as anybody that's like worn a sleep tracker will know, if you have alcohol before bed, that is going to impact the quality and probably the quantity of your sleep as well. So it's just something to keep in mind if those are regular parts of your routine. Maybe take a look at how that impacts your sleep and how you might adjust your consumption of caffeine or alcohol if you use either of those things to give yourself a better chance of getting a good night's sleep. Two other things that for me I think really impact my sleep quality. One is having a very cold bedroom or a very cold sleeping environment. I actually have a cooling mattress pad, which I find so helpful because no matter what the temperature is in the room, I can keep my bed at the temperature that I am most comfortable in, and it helps me get a good night's sleep. Honestly, like when I'm traveling, if I'm in a hotel room or an Airbnb or something, I really miss that cooling mattress pad. And I usually find that when I'm away, I'm like cranking the air conditioning to get it cold enough. But in general, sleeping in a cold environment, that's what your body wants. Like I said before about having heat exposure before bed helps your body temperature drop because you want your body temperature to drop. That's what's going to help you get into that sleepy mode. So as your body temperature is trying to drop when you're getting closer to bedtime, that's where having like a colder bedroom environment can really help that. And again, you're just trying to kind of create more of the environment that gives you the best chance of getting a good night's sleep. Going back to the light exposure, having a very dark bedroom also can be super helpful. If you have a lot of like those little electronic lights that are in there, if you have really sheer curtains or just kind of not very good light blocking, if you have windows in your room, might seem like something really small, but that can actually have a huge impact on your body's ability to fall asleep and stay asleep at night. So whether that means maybe finding some good blackout shades, I've even gone so far as to like cover up any of those little red or blue lights that seem to be on every electronic device everywhere. And the one other thing that for me I feel like has made a huge difference is basically just keeping my phone out of my bedroom. At night I kind of have a cutoff time where I just like put my phone, I have a specific spot for my phone where it goes at night, where I'm not tempted to look at it. I'm definitely not tempted to grab it in the middle of the night. If you absolutely have to use your phone as an alarm clock or something like that, even just putting it far enough away that you're not tempted to grab it at night or look at it right before you're going to bed, that can be helpful. I might go a little more to the extreme end where I'm just like, I'm not even keeping my phone in my bedroom. I don't even want to be tempted. I find I'm a lot more calm and just sort of feeling ready for bed if I put my phone away like at least an hour before bedtime. I might even put it in airplane mode or just turn it off so that I really don't have any temptation to pick it up or check social media or something like that. I realize, again, it's not going to be everybody's thing. It's not going to work for everybody's life. But if you find that you're looking at your phone or scrolling social media or checking your emails immediately before bed or a lot at night, it might be worth experimenting with some ways that you can sort of keep the phone away from the bedroom or just kind of keep that phone time, screen time to a minimum before bed and see if that helps. Like that might have been a lot of information to throw at you, but sleep for me has become so important, and it's something that I've become really interested in. Done a lot of specific learning about sleep and its impact not only on our overall health and wellness, but really all the things that go into getting a good night's sleep, why it's so important, what we can do to kind of create that environment for our bodies and our minds to get a good night's sleep on a nightly basis. It's something that I've ended up working with a lot of clients on over the years, even with people that maybe I originally was doing personal training with or nutrition coaching, that ultimately we got to the point where we realized that sleep was kind of the missing link or kind of the factor that hadn't been taken into account. Your sleep is compromised, it's going to be so much harder to do things like get movement in your day or make food choices that make you feel good. I feel like you can even just like regulate your mental and emotional state. I really do believe that sleep is the foundation of our overall health, and for me, being on this long healing journey, knowing that if I'm getting good sleep on a regular basis, I know it's only going to be helpful in my overall ability to heal and recover and keep making progress, and that not getting good sleep is going to have a huge impact, not only how I feel on a day-to-day basis, but really have a big impact on how my body is able to recover. So it's become a really big area of focus for me to make sure that doing everything I can to get good quality sleep as much as possible. Again, for me, that means using sort of the physiological circadian rhythm regulating tools like light exposure, exercise, meal timing, consistent sleep schedule, and then just implementing the pre-bed wind down routine that I find works really well for me. These things have just kind of become habits and rituals over time, so that it's not even something that I think about. It's just kind of something that I do at the end of the day. And I always know I can return to these practices, even if there are times when my sleep is compromised for whatever reason, because it is going to happen from time to time, whether that's because of something like travel or getting sick or just having a bad night's sleep for any number of reasons. I know I can keep using these strategies and I'm going to get back on track. And all these things are really adaptable and modifiable. So if I can't, for example, use my sauna at night, I can take a hot shower. If I only have 5 minutes to do a few stretches before bed, that still works, still kind of keeps that routine in place. If I'm not in my own bedroom where I have blackout curtains and can keep it really dark and cold, do the best I can in whatever situation I'm in. I can always get outside and get some natural light in the morning. I can do my best to avoid bright lights at night, even if it's not quote unquote perfect. Just having these strategies in place and doing the best I can with them on a daily basis. I know I've set myself up that I'm very likely to get consistently good quality sleep. And when I've done that, then on the days when I don't get the greatest sleep, I don't have to worry about it. Okay, I think that's my whole spiel on sleep. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I hope some of these tips or tools or strategies might be helpful, especially if you are struggling with your sleep at all, or if you maybe just haven't considered how much sleep might be impacting your overall health. Maybe playing around with some of these concepts could have a big impact. Let me know if you have any thoughts, questions, comments. Leave those below. Always happy to answer questions. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you soon.